Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about step-by-step process of how to file your EB5 visa. A little bit background about me. I was on H-1B visa in US for more than 12 years and have recently filed my EB5 investor visa. And I was just speaking to a few friends around me. I realized that there is a lack of awareness on what EB5 investor visa is, what is the step-by-step approach, like what's the first thing if one has to do on this one. So I thought of creating this video so that it can help people understand more on very straightforward step-by-step process on filing this visa if they plan to do so. Especially if somebody's on H-1B who's waiting for their green card and have plans to settle here in US for permanently. I think this is a good route and they could understand what the process is and they can start building on it over a period of time. So let's begin with that. The very first step I suggest anybody to do is to understand what is EB5 visa, what is its requirement, what does it entails, what are the kind of investments are required. So very simple structure. You can Google it, you can go to USCIS website and find it out. I can give a very high level information on this right here. So basically, it is a visa for an investor, anybody who's from anywhere in the world. They can invest at least $800,000 in US economy. They have to invest in a way that it creates at least about 10 jobs in the United States, and that qualifies as an investor visa. There are ways how it is being tested. So, for example, to begin with, one has to invest the money, and then jobs creation can happen over a period of time for next 2 years. So more on that a little bit later. But yes, I think the very first step is to understand what is EB5 visa. Anybody around the world can file this visa. It's irrespective of the nationality. They need to make sure that the money which they're investing into this one has come from a very clean and legitimate sources. So that's something very important for this visa. Um, Once that is done, I think the second step, as per me, should be to really understand there are basically two kind of paths which are there in this visa. One is direct investment and another one is a regional center investment. I think one has to take his or her own time to understand what these two paths are and what he or she, what you are like comfortable with. For example, direct investment is like you buy a business, you start your own business wherein you invest at least around 800,000 into a business. 800,000 is for somebody who's in like we're investing into an area where the employment is on a unemployment is on a lower side. On the other hand, if somebody is investing into like an urban location, then that investment is around 1,050,000. So basically, one has to understand that in a direct investment, you invest that money into your own business. You can buy a franchisee, which I highly recommend, or you can invest into any USCIC approved regional center wherein you put your money into a regional center project. Your money stays there for 4 to 6 years. You don't get any interest out of it, but you don't have any headache. You're passively managing that money. So you are an investor into that project. You don't have to do anything once you give your money over there. On the other hand, direct investment, you're basically starting your own business. You are buying a franchise, starting your own business. You're responsible for making sure that your money, your investment makes money out of it, and at the same, it creates 10 jobs. So those are the two routes one has to really spend. If you have any background in business, I highly recommend going with the direct path in the way, because you can get way more return on your investments when you're doing this route. On the other hand, in regional center, the return on investment is very less, but at the same time, you don't have to like worry about like you don't have to get involved on a daily basis or even on a day-by-day basis, because you are a passive investor. You can continue with your job. If you're an H1B like me, you can continue to work on your job. You get your green card almost immediately once you file this. When I say almost immediately, it still takes like 6 months to a year to get your approval process for this one. But yes, you don't have to do much if you're going through the regional center route. So I think that's my step number two for anybody, like understand what these two things are, direct versus regional center, and choosing your path. Once you're clear, I think the next step should be to hire an immigration lawyer. I don't recommend directly going to an immigration lawyer because immigration lawyers are very specific in their domain. For example, so if you go to a lawyer, they might be specific in direct investment, or they might be into regional center investment projects. So I think first thing should be to understand EB5, as I said, and number two, understanding our own orientation on where we want it to go, direct versus regional center. Once we're good with those two steps, the natural third step is to work with an immigration lawyer. By the way, right now I'm not your immigration lawyer. I'm just like a random guy on the YouTube. So you definitely need to double check all this information with your lawyer when you're there in the step number 3. So remediation lawyer will be able to help you understand what all is required. They'll be able to give you, basically their job is to file the petition with the USCIS on your behalf, and whatever is required to file that petition, they will work with you to get all the documentation done. So you can work with them on what is required, what documents are required, where you are, wherever your money resources are. They'll be able to help you understand if that money resource can be counted or cannot be counted. So that's very important, because you have to understand what is there. And that's actually step number 4, wherein you try to understand how you're going to source your funding. And then you start deploying your funding. Once you're working with the immigration lawyer, you understood what is required to be done, then you start working with your lawyer on deploying your funds. If you're investing directly, you start working for creation of your business, probably. And if you're working with the regional center, you start deploying your funds, moving your funds to that project. So that's when you're actually starting your steps. You can file your petition as soon as you have the at least like a minimum amount of start you have invested into the project. You don't have to complete your whole 800K basically right now. That's the ruling. It may change, by the way, but right now the ruling is that you don't have to be fully invested to file your I-526, which is EB5 investor visa petition. As soon as you have made some sort of investment, your lawyer can suggest you that, okay, let's file it, so that you get into the queue. So that's also very important. If you're from India like me, you need to understand that there is a huge backlog due to the country cap. So you definitely have to look into the the concurrency date when you're filing your EB5 as well. So only right now, as of October 2025, EB5 rural is current. On the other hand, if you're investing in an urban, it's not current, so you may not be able to file your I-485, which is the adjustment of status. So look into that if you're from India, because you definitely would like to file your adjustment of status along with your petition, because that's the biggest benefit, right? If you're like me, if you're on H1B, your biggest problem is you cannot get your green card status adjusted. So investing in EB5 with rural will let you do that as of now. I'm not sure when it will get backlogged. So that's important. That's where you work with your lawyer, get your proof of documents done, and start working on that process. And final step, which I say, is actually going ahead and filing your petition. So that's your lawyer will do on your behalf. You don't have to wait, as I said, for the whole investment. You can just go in and file your petition anytime you have started your investment into there. Just that when you file your petition, if you are filing based on your country or for region, if your date is current, you can also file your 485, which is adjustment of status. You can file for your EAD, you can file for your travel documents. So that way you can do all those things at one go as soon as you make your very first investment. So that's where your lawyer will help you doing that. So that's really big relief for somebody who has their dates not current right now in the system. So once you file that one, after let's say 6 months, maybe a year, depending on the processing times, you will get your conditional green card. So that conditional green card will be like just like any other green card, but at the back end there will be a condition which will tell you that, okay, you still need to make sure that you have created so many, like at least 10 jobs over there, which is where that condition will stay for next 2 years, and then there'll be another check by the USCIS that those 10 jobs were created. If you're investing through a regional center, there is no headache at all, because they take care of that part. If you're doing your own business, then you have to work with your accountant to make sure the 10 jobs are created, and you send those documents to USCIS to remove that condition, so that your temporary green card gets converted to a permanent green card. So once that is done, you're good. You're like you no longer have to keep your investment. You no longer have to make sure that your money is basically now yours. You can do whatever you want to do. You're satisfied. USCIS is satisfied with that investment. Having said that, I think that is very important. I wanted to check that what is EB5 visa. You don't know what's the path. So I just wanted to make sure that I create a video wherein we lay down all the 5 steps which are required to file your EB5 visa. If you have any questions, please feel free to write it in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much for your time. If you like this content, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Bye.